Welcome back to Power and Politics. Earlier in the show, we played my power lunch with Green Party leader Elizabeth May. Part of the interview included a discussion of her personal as well as her party's position on the issue of abortion. Take a listen. What is your personal view on abortion?
A woman has a right to a safe legal abortion. I've never wavered in that position since I was like 8 years old and realized what was going on when I heard my mother arguing with people about the issue. A woman has a right to a safe legal abortion.
What would you do as leader of your party if a backbench Green MP came forward and wanted to introduce a private member's bill that reopened the debate?
It's a difficult question because in Green Party policy, as leader, my job description is chief spokesperson. So I could talk to them, I could try to dissuade them, I could say it would be unfortunate. We work to consensus as Greens, so a measure of a private member's bill, we would all discuss it as a caucus. We try to talk people out of something. But I don't have the power of leader of the Green Party to whip votes, nor do I have the power to silence an MP. And frankly, I think that's a good thing, because democracy will be healthier when constituents know that their MP works for them and not for the party leader.
So you would not, the debate right now is about what Andrew Scheer would do, right?
Yeah.
And so you would not ban the introduction of any type of bill, even if it does reopen a debate on a socially controversial issue.
Under our values as Greens and under the powers I have as leader, I don't have the power to do that.
Now, we recorded that interview with Ms. May last week and published an online article about it this afternoon. The Green Party then issued this statement, writing, "It is and has always been the Green Party of Canada's policy that all women must have timely access to safe legal abortions. Although the leader does not have the power to whip votes, all Green Party members of Parliament must endorse the Green Party's values, including a firm support of a woman's right to choose. There is zero chance," the party goes on to say, "an elected representative of our party will ever reopen the abortion debate. This is because during our candidate vetting process, we ensure that all candidates wholeheartedly agree that the abortion debate is closed in Canada. Any who disagree are not allowed to run. It is an extremely rare occurrence, but the Green Party of Canada's Federal Council has disqualified candidates in the past because of anti-abortion views." It's time for the Power Panel. Let's get their views. In Toronto, Melissa Lantzman of Hill & Knowlton Strategies. Alongside her, Council Public Affairs Brad Levine. And Yolande James, former Quebec Liberal Cabinet Minister, is with us from Montreal. Here with me in studio, the CBC's John Paul Tasker. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Vash.
Nice to see you. So let's start with some reaction, and I'll preface it. JP, why don't I start with you? Because I'll preface it with the reason that the question was asked was because of the debate that proceeded in the weeks before it between primarily the Liberals and the Conservatives, where Andrew Scheer was, an old video resurfaced about same-sex marriage, and he was asked about it. His personal views weren't exactly made clear, so that prompted me to ask Elizabeth May. She's getting, a lot of reaction to her comments, and then this statement that came out a few hours later is interesting as well.
Well, it's very interesting. Obviously, she has this disconnect between what she personally believes, although she says she supports abortions, but she does come from that deeply religious background. But she also comes from a world where she thinks parliamentarians should have their own say. She thinks there's too much power centered in the Prime Minister's office. There's too much power on MPs to be whipped. She's been banging on about this, rightfully so, perhaps, for many years, that MPs should be empowered to make their own decisions. So she's really tough, stuck in a really hard spot where she might believe one thing, but she wants to have MPs to have the power to make their own decisions when it comes to these sort of things. But this all adds to the NDP playbook, I think. This really helps out the NDP, who've been trying to present her as basically a conservative who drives an electric vehicle, because this has been a common refrain from a lot of progressive parties in years past, that the Green Party's not as progressive as you might think it is. Let's not forget she promised to balance the books last time. Her campaign platform right now has a lot of details about cutting red tape, about how to make it easier for small businesses to start up. There was also some controversy in the past about the party's stance on divorce. Some activists today, I saw some NDP activists tweeting out an old policy position where it was kind of seemingly gleaned from a men's rights organization. They had to remove that in 2011 and 2015 from their platform. So there's a long history of progressive people trying to paint the Green Party as, you might like them on the environment, but there's a whole lot more that you don't even know just yet. And I was seeing NDP MPs all over Twitter and Facebook today tweeting out your story, Facebooking your story and saying, look, if you want to vote for a party that believes in a woman's right to choose, you have to go with us, because Elizabeth May on this is at best shaky.
She says, Brad, we'll get you to weigh in on this. Is this the sort of, great moment for the NDP that JP is describing? I mean, she is saying that, the statement that came out later said that they vet their candidates, that anybody who is anti-abortion isn't allowed to come forward. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think JP lays it out quite well, though. I mean, she does want to see more free votes or freedom by members of Parliament. But, I think that progressive Canadians, may think that in some cases that could be great. But when it comes to human rights, when it comes to something so important like women's rights or marriage equality, progressives don't want members of Parliament to speak freely. They want them to uphold those fundamental rights. And if Elizabeth May is open to that, and actually it was the second component of the answer that is actually also concerning, where she said, I think that that's a good thing, that I cannot ensure that members of Parliament under the Green Party banner stand up for a woman's right to choose. She thought that that was a great thing.
Well, she thought it better reflect that they could stand up for their constituencies rather than told what to do.
That's a problem. That's a problem when you're dealing with things like human rights. That's a fundamental problem where, we wouldn't have many rights that have been hard fought and gained and enshrined in law if we left it up to free votes of individuals who claim that they are basing it on the idea that I'm speaking on behalf of my constituents. Now, this is not just the first thing. If this is a one-off, we might say, well, maybe she slipped up. This is a pattern. She says one of her candidates in British Columbia said that there's lots of consistency between the Green Party and the Conservatives when it comes to fiscal matters. You referenced that just now. They've got the Quebec leader of the Green Party saying that they're very concerned about her principal stand on oil and pipelines. So in this election, progressives need to give the Green Party a really hard look. They are no longer a progressive option in this upcoming election, leaving that sole space to Jagmeet Singh's NDP. If Conservatives want to try something new, the Greens look like a really nice fit. But if you're a progressive Canadian and hold things like climate change and things like human rights dear to your heart, then there's only one option in this campaign, and that's the NDP.
Well, you've just made a great campaign ad, I guess. But Melissa, what do you think? Do you think that's fair? I mean, it's just, it's this comment that she made on this issue, and she was unequivocal about what her personal views are.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure even from from her history in terms of what her views on what she said on your show. Brad's right. This is a play for votes on the progressive side, and it's nothing more than that. Because right now we have all four major parties committed to not reopening the debate in whatever way that is. All of the party leaders said they're not interested in reopening this debate in Canada. So we can have it as long as we want, but again, they've all said that. This speaks to actually the strategy and the lack of strategy with the Green Party. This is the big leagues now, and it's important that the party actually tell the leader of the Green Party what their policy is, rather than come and correct the record afterwards. And they did it rather quickly, but there's going to be a lot of this in this campaign, and Elizabeth May has to show that she's ready for the big leagues and for a big campaign without these kinds of errors.
Yolande, what do you think?
Well, first on the issue, if Andrew Scheer really fumbled and struggled with this after the announcement of his star candidate in Quebec a couple of weeks ago, and it was for a reason, because it's a fundamental issue for Canadians and Quebec particularly. It's fundamental. And if he struggled on that, not because it's Elizabeth May and the Green Party, does that change? And if you have to walk back your statement, your interview, where you're, quote, seen, heard, being very clear with the fact that you won't intervene and you would allow it by trying to say that it's a conditional now entry point for any candidate, it just makes the point that this is problematic. Ms. May's been leader of the party since 2006, elected in 2011, but up until this point, it's really been more so of a struggle being heard as a party, making space, I should say. But going into this campaign, we've seen it before it's actually called, that the Green Party has really been on an upwards slope with gaining support, even in by-elections. And I think she's discovering now that that does change things the questions that she would have and her party would have gotten away with or were not paid attention to in previous elections, previous times, she will now have to answer. That's the flip side of being now, if you want to say, a big player, but under the same scrutiny as all the other parties have been. And we'll have to see how her and her party, with all of their candidates, will respond to that, because a lot of people that have not previously considered voting for the Greens are seriously considering it and actually putting your X next to the Green candidate name. Well, there's a few days of campaigning to do, and I think this is a warning for her in terms of understanding that no, it's not going to be a campaign like the others. They're going to really have to be a lot clearer, especially on fundamental issues like abortion.
Final word, JP?
Yeah, I just want to say that this has happened in the past with Elizabeth May. I don't know if you remember a gentleman named Bruce Heyer. He was an NDP MP who voted against the long gun registry. The NDP gave him the boot, and then Elizabeth May let him into the Green Party, and he sat as a Green MP for the remainder of the last Parliament before this Parliament was elected. So she obviously doesn't shy away from these characters who hold divergent views, who don't support something like the long gun registry.
I think that can be your position, and you can defend that. But then the fact that the statement comes out, a few hours later to say, actually, they can't believe what they want.
But this is the difference.
That was the hard part. I think.
Well, when you're at 3% nationally, you can make those kind of risky gambles and take in a member of Parliament like Bruce Heyer. Not to say he's a bad man, but he voted against the long gun registry, which many progressive voters obviously backed and supported, and were upset when Stephen Harper dismantled it. But now, when you're at 10%, when you're tied with the NDP in British Columbia, Quebec, and Atlantic Canada, you have to make a whole different sort of calculations now. If you're going to pick up some of those people who've peeled off from the Liberals, who've peeled off from the NDP, you better have the same policy positions on some really fundamental things like abortion.
Okay. JP's right.
Really quickly, and then
I'm gonna weigh in here. JP's absolutely right. If you've got the momentum, she lost a huge opportunity in this interview to say that ostensibly the Conservatives and the Liberals and the NDP are all the same on climate change, and we're the only ones that can get it done. That didn't come through. And when people are into that issue or are saying that that's their number one issue, that's her sweet spot. And this is not where she is today.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video. Thanks for watching.